Hello everyone, I'm Poe, a co-creator of OceanX, and welcome to our first tutorial. Since dropping Dreamworld, we got a bunch of messages from people that are interested in filmmaking and editing, asking how we did some of the effects in the video. So we decided to make a tutorial about the best effect in the video, and that being the final eye shot where the universe is moving in my eyes. So today I'm going to teach you guys how to shoot it and edit it, and hopefully you can produce it yourself. I'm going to show you guys the final shot that was actually used in the video first, to give you a feel of how the whole thing works, and then I'm going to teach you what you need to do to shoot it and how to edit it in post. So let's hop into YouTube and see the final shot actually in the video. Okay, so now I'm going to show you guys the final product of the shot that we are recreating today that was put into Dreamworld as like the highlight end effect of the entire video. So if I go ahead and hit play, you guys are going to see this little rotation into me opening my eyes, and boom, space is moving in both of my eyeballs. Now if I rewind it just to show you guys again, you guys can see that space is perfectly masked around both of my eyeballs to make it look like I actually have space in my eyes. So we're gonna hop into Premiere and I'm gonna show you guys exactly what I did to create this effect. Okay, so we are inside Premiere where we're gonna compile our footage together to send it over to After Effects. But before I do that, I want to show you guys some things that you need to do when you shoot to be able to make the effect work properly in After Effects. So here's the raw footage of when I open my eyes. What you guys are going to need to shoot this shot is light. Light is the thing that sells this entire effect. You're not going to be able to mask the universe around your eye without a good contrast source in your eyeball. So what we used is artificial light to shine the light on my eyes to make these contrast points come up. If you don't have these contrast points in your eye, the tracker in After Effects won't track your eye properly, which will make the effect not work. This is the most important thing that you need in your eye to shoot it. So we're gonna take this clip, put on the timeline, right click, replace with After Effects composition. Okay, now that we've made the dynamic link between After Effects and Premiere, whatever we do in After Effects will be done in Premiere when we render it all out inside Premiere. The first step in putting the universe in your eye is to track the contrast point in the eye that we shot with. So to do that, we use a plugin within After Effects called Tracker. So what we're gonna do is go to the point in the clip where you can see the contrast points the best, which would be around right here. What we're gonna do is right click on the clip and go to track motion. What will happen is this little pop-up window will come up and you'll see this little track point on the screen. So what you want to do is zoom in and put this track point in the middle of that contrast point or on top of it. Make sure this little box is around the entire contrast point. Try to put it as tight as you can. And make this box a little bit bigger just because you want a little bit more space for it to move around. So what this tracker is going to do is it's going to follow this little contrast point in your eye around the entire clip and basically make little keyframes to be able to track the eye effectively. If you didn't have this little contrast point, you would just be putting this box in black and it can't track black well because there's nothing to track in black. But now that you have this little light source, it has things to track. So now what we're gonna do is not really worry about any of these other options for now. What we're gonna do is hit this play button and it's gonna go through and track the motion of this contrast point. You see that my eye is moving around, but it's staying right on the contrast point perfectly because we shot correctly. So it's gonna go through and do its little thing. And once it's done, it's gonna create all these little keyframes. Now these keyframes is where this contrast point went. So if you go back, it'll be all, exactly where it is. And that's what we want. It's perfectly tracked to the eye because of this contrast point. Okay, so now that we have the eye tracked correctly, we're gonna wanna create a null object. So the way to go about this is to right click, go to new, select null object. So what we're gonna do with this null object is go over to edit target in this little tracker window, select the null object 3, hit OK, and then hit apply. X and Y is fine, hit apply, and it's going to apply the effects to the actual raw clip. Once you've attached the null object to the tracker, the next thing is to mask the universe onto the eye. So to go about that, you want to bring the space shot into the project. And it is fine to take up the entire frame. And I want to choose what part of this shot I want to be in the eye. I don't really like this pink stuff in here because I feel like it looks too fake in the eye. What I do like is the contrast between the pink and the blue down here. But keep in mind, you don't want to go too far to the edge because it will start giving you hard edges. So you want to be kind of towards the middle. So I'm going to use the ellipse tool to create a mask that will go around the eye. So you want to left click on the ellipse tool up here. You want to go to ellipse tool. and then you want to click wherever you want the frame to be, and you left click, and then you hold Control and Shift to make a perfect circular shape. That looks about right. It's a little big, but that's okay. Hit V on your keyboard to bring up the cursor again, and we're gonna just drag it over to the eye. Let's zoom in here. Hit H to get your hand tool to move the picture around. I'm just gonna move it and kind of scale it down to fit the eye. So this looks like it's okay. I'm gonna make another point. If you set the pen tool up here and then hit another point, it'll create another point for you to stretch. So let's go back to the cursor tool and just stretch it out and make sure it kind of fits the eye. Okay, so we want to get rid of this access up here above the eyelashes because that just looks unnatural. Like if I look up here, it just doesn't look like my eyeball doesn't come above my eyelashes. That's just not real. So we wanted to tuck underneath these eyelashes to make it look real. So the way to do that is we have to draw another mask around the entire eye and then hit the feather tool again to kind of feather it out and make it look more natural. First, we're going to select our clip, and then we're going to get our pen tool and we're going to draw a mask around the eye. The way to add curvature to your lines is to left click and hold it and then just curve it how you want and stretch it how you want. So that's how you get like that perfect curvature around the eye, because the eye is curved and you want to get that perfect mask around it. And then we're going to go over to mask number 2 and hit intersect. This gives it so you have a mask up here where it doesn't come above this line, and when we have the feather tool, we're going to feather it so it does, but it looks more natural doing so. The way to do that is hit F on your keyboard again to bring up that mask feather, bring up the feather a bit, and you can see that it's starting to kind of reach the edge here. So let's hit V on the keyboard. Let's click away and see our results. So that looks a little bit natural. We're getting there. I don't like the black around this as much. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to adjust this just a bit. That looks a lot more natural. So see how it tucks underneath the eyelashes to make it look like it's actually a part of the eye. Still doing it a little too much. So what I'm going to do is just kind of decrease that feather just a bit, just to make it look a little bit more natural. So the next step is to go through every frame and make sure that this mask stays on the null object. But first we have to parent the universe shot to the null. So the way to do that is select this little whip tool and parent it to the null 3. This will make it so that it follows the eye perfectly. And the way to go keyframe by keyframe is just to hold Control and hit an arrow on your keyboard, just to go around your keyboard. And you can see that it perfectly follows the mask of the eye. That's because we parented it to the null object, which is parented to the tracker. So this is really the effect in total. So the reason why this is working so well is because we had that contrast point. If we didn't have that contrast point, this whole image would be terrible. It'll be going off the eye because it would have a tough time tracking it. But since we shot it correctly and we used the contrast point to track it, it is tracked correctly, so it makes this effect a lot easier to do and a lot less time consuming. Alright guys, so the last step to make this eye perfect is just to add little adjustments to every frame in the shot. Now, if it is tracked correctly like this shot is, you're not really going to have a problem with that, and you probably won't really have to adjust that much, if not at all. But just in case it's a little off, I'm going to show you a way that you can adjust it using keyframings to make it look perfect. So you go over to your mask and you hit M on the keyboard twice, and this brings up the mask parameters. Select mask path, the stopwatch here on mask 1, and the stopwatch on mask 2. And then if we hold Control and hit the arrow key right, it will go forward in the frame, and you can see that it is tracked correctly. So I don't really need to adjust anything, but say that I did. All I would have to do is just click off of this real quick, click back on it to bring up more options and be able to just kind of adjust them as how you want. And you see that this keyframe pops up. So basically, if it moves off the eye a little bit, I can get it back on the eye and keep everything moving smoothly. Okay, so now that we have the first eye done, we want to apply the same effects to the second eye. So the first step to applying these effects to the second eye is to create another track point. So the way I go about that is to select the raw footage, go over to motion source in the tracker tab, click on the down arrow, click on the name of the footage. It's going to bring you into this new layer. Go to the current track, hit the new tracker, it can be any tracker, tracker 4 for instance, zoom in, use H to get your hand tool, V to get your cursor back, and you're just doing the same thing that you did in the previous eye. You just get to the contrast point, draw a box around it, make this one just a little bit bigger, and you should be good to go. Now make sure you're at the point in the timeline where your eye is fully open, like I did in the first one, and this will work properly. So then you just hit the play button, it's gonna go through, it's gonna track that contrast point. Okay, so now that it's done with the tracking, you're gonna wanna go over new, null object. You don't even have to name it, null object 4. You're gonna wanna go into edit target, null 4, and you wanna hit OK. Now it's gonna let you apply these effects to the null object. X and Y is fine. And boom, now you have 2 tracked eyes. Now, the easiest way to make the eyes look the same is to just copy the layer of this eye and bring it over to this eye and make some adjustments. So the way to do that is just click on the eye shot, hit Control C to copy, hit Control V to paste. You want to bring it back over the clip, and you're just going to drag it over onto the other eye. Now make sure you're in the playhead time of where your eye is fully open. You want to be like over here and then try to do it, because it will just mess the whole thing up. You want to be at where your eye is most open, where you want to start the tracking to make the effect work properly. So I'm going to scroll in, use H for my hand tool, hit V back for my cursor tool, and I'm just going to adjust some things about this just to make it look right. But if I scroll out, do it like that, then you'll see that they both look pretty much the same. Now I have to do the same thing I did to the first eye. I have to parent this to null 4 so it's tracked properly. So all I have to do is catch this little whip, bring it over to null 4, and it's parented. So now if I go over frame by frame, control right arrow key, it should be properly tracked. Okay, so the effect is done, guys. It should be properly tracked. Nothing should be off about it. And we're gonna RAM preview just to see what it looks like, and just to see some of that movement in the eyes. It should be slow motion, but if you guys can see, if I scroll in a little bit, it is moving in the eye, and it is perfectly tracked through the eye, fading out as it gets to the edge of the eye. Let's go ahead and see that again. And that's the effect, guys. That is what we did for Dreamworld. Alright guys, that is how you put the universe into your eye. If you enjoyed this video and found it helpful, go ahead and hit that subscribe button. If you found it extra helpful, go ahead and smash that like button. And if you have any more questions or suggestions for further tutorials, go ahead and leave a comment down below. We will be answering all comments. Thank you guys again. I'm Poe from Ocean X, and have a nice day. Peace!